The Nation Leadership Forum. This is a melting pot of ideas where we create an interface involving state actors, non-state actors and the general public. And together we hope not just to shape public discourse but more critically influence policy. Now today we're discussing the critical subject of food security. Food security exists when all persons at all times have both physical and economic access to safe and nutritious food, which meets their dietary needs and preferences for a healthy life. Unfortunately, despite this being a basic human right for a section of Kenyans, it remains just a dream. According to the National Food and Nutrition Security Policy Framework for the period 2017 to 2022, half of Kenya's population lives below the poverty line, with 25 out of every 100 Kenyans suffering from chronic food insecurity and poor nutrition. This situation now risks being aggravated by the deepening challenges of, among others, the desert locust invasion and the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, how can Kenya strengthen food security in light of these emerging shocks? To help answer this question, I am joined by the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Peter Munya, the Global Director for Government Relations and Policy at One Acre Fund, Michelle Kagari, the Food and Agriculture Organization's representative to Kenya, Dr. Tobias Takavarasha, Apollo Investments Limited Group Chief Executive Officer Ashok Shah, who I should say also chairs the Kenya Agriculture Insurance Group and is involved with the Office of the President in creation of a value chain-based agriculture program. And finally, I'm also joined by the Chief Executive Officer of mobile e-commerce company Copier Global, Mr. Tim Steele. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on set. And to begin our conversation, I'd like to engage the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Mr. Peter Munya. It seems like we have quite a lot on our plate, no pun intended here. And the situation is that we had the fall armyworm sometime last year. Starting 2020, we had the issue of the desert locust invasion. Now the COVID pandemic is making issues more complex. How is the food security situation looking like as we speak?
Yes, indeed, as you have said, we have had several challenges to food security brought about by the COVID-19 crisis, the locust invasion, and of course issues relating to climate change. But the ministry is doing everything that we can to make sure that there is enough supply of food, there is food security, and farming activities also continue uninterrupted with minimal interruptions to make sure that food production continues, supply chains are not disrupted to the extent that people cannot access food, and also production and processing of food and provision of inputs also continues within the limits of what we can do under the current circumstances.
Great, CS. And
so our mandate really is to ensure, amidst all these challenges, that Kenya's CEO can be able to feed themselves. Food is accessible, food is also affordable, and vulnerable families and the communities are also supported to have the resilience to be able to support their livelihoods through the crisis. And of course, planning for the recovery from the crisis to make sure that our economy resurges again forward and our agriculture recovers to continue powering our economy.
Good point you've raised there, CS. And just before I let you go, I would like to ask a question around the budgetary allocation. If you look at the supplementary budget, which was published last week by the National Treasury, it has designated just a little over 500 million shillings for combating the desert locust invasion. How do you feel about this sort of allocation?
Well, I think the 500 million is just part of the allocation because we've been accessing resources, both direct revenue allocation from the national government and also support from development partners. So we have enough resources to carry out our interventions in managing the locust invasion. The main challenge for us has been being able to access especially chemicals that we have to import from abroad because of the disruptions in supply chain. And recently, of course, the rains that have also come that have kind of interrupted our interventions in the locust areas. Otherwise, our biggest challenge right now is really, I would want to say, it's not resources. It is the slowdown in terms of what you're able to do within the heavy rains that are now pounding, where you can't spray because of the rains in those areas where there are locusts, and also the interruptions in the supply of essential chemicals that are required to be used in the spraying in those areas.
I see, and I would like to bring in Michelle Kagari of One Acre Fund at this particular point. And I should mention to the public, you can be part of this conversation online, hashtag NMG Leadership Forum. You can tweet at NTV Kenya, at AmbokoJH to be part of this conversation on the online platform. Michelle, the CS has spoken about the issue of the challenge of accessing chemicals in light of the restricted movement we are now facing in light of COVID-19. You deal with smallholder farmers, and one of their key challenges is access to inputs. How is the situation like in light of the circumstances?
Certainly, the farmers are faced with a double challenge right now. They've got the Locust situation, and then they've got the disruptions to movement because of the COVID crisis. Now, the problem that farmers are having right now is that, I'm sorry, there's a lot of feedback.
Just carry on, Michelle, we can hear you.
Okay. The challenge that farmers are having right now is that the restrictions that have been put in place because of COVID are making it much harder for farmers to access the inputs that they need. And at the same time that the planting season has just begun. And this year, we've got a good rain that's there, so it's challenging for them to take advantage. So this is one of the big issues. The other big issues that they're facing is being able to ensure that they can get their produce to market, and this especially for fresh produce, because of the challenges that are in place because of the curfew that have disrupted the timings that are usually there for when produce is gathered and then sent to market.
That's a good point you raised there. And still on the route to market, Michelle, 7 out of every 10 farmers in Kenya are small-scale farmers. I'd imagine this is a largely informal kind of space you're operating in. How is it like day-to-day on a route to market, even before COVID-19?
They start very early. The smallholder farmers are one of the hardest working people, and they are open for business. They are still working. They are trying to farm their farms. They're trying to get their produce to market. On a typical day, they will start very early, before dawn. Now with the curfew, how they can get their produce together and gather it together so that it can be transported to market in time has been significantly disrupted. The other big challenge that a lot of farmers face is access to high quality farm inputs. They'd have to walk quite long distances, and certainly that's something that One Acre Fund supports farmers, because we provide the inputs to them within walking distance. The restrictions that have been put in place because of COVID have made it much harder to access this high quality farm inputs. And there are ways that we can remove these challenges while ensuring that farmers are able to keep themselves safe.
Okay.
And these are the ones that we're quite keen to discuss.
I see, and I'd like to bring in Dr. Tobias, the country representative for Food and Agriculture Organization. In FAO's April 14th Desert Situation Update, you described the situation in East Africa as extremely alarming. How bad is the situation based on the challenges that we are facing as a country?
The situation arising from the Locust is unprecedented, and it is quite serious in the whole of Africa. It has not been experienced in the last 70 years in the case of Kenya. We've not seen that forms of locusts. Since January, the government has been lifting up support of FAO and other parties to put under the invasion. This support is the bringing in of the aircraft expertise and the pesticides and the necessary surveillance to ensure that we target the places that are affected by desert locusts. It is a major threat to food security. When we talk of floods, or we talk of the effects of COVID-19, since January, seeing breasts desert locusts, in terms of how they eat the grass, forage, on which the livestock feed. Now facing a situation that farmers go into the field, plant the crops, and we have not the control, their efforts will be in vain. But we can, in conjunction with the ministry and other partners, we have been able to mobilize resources so that it's the government to deal with that situation. And we are intensifying those efforts to make sure that we don't run into another of threat to food security.
I see. Thank you very much, Dr. And I'd like to bring in Ashok Shah, who deals in the issue of agricultural insurance, because this is the safety net which many farmers would like to be part of, but many of them have a knowledge gap in terms of how they can access this. How is the landscape like across the country in terms of uptake, and perhaps what can private sector do to try and enhance the uptake of crop insurance?
Thank you, Julians. What has happened is that in crop insurance, the crop insurance has been a very difficult area. There has been a long time when agriculture insurance was not being done in Kenya. But what has happened is in the last 5 years, we have increased our capacity. We have also brought in sustainability. One of our clients is a 1 acre fund. And because of their working with the smallholder farmers, we have been able to really get a very high level of covers going to them. In the last five years, we've done about a million farmers have been covered by us. And the way we have done it is that we've given covers through 1 acre fund and other aggregators. And the aggregators have really engaged the farmers in making sure that they get the inputs, and when they get the inputs, we will make sure that we can give them the cover for the yield. The cover that we are providing right now is that we give 80% of the yield that the farmer is supposed to get. So in case there was lack of proper rainfall or other perils that would have affected the yield, then we will make up the yield between up to 80%. The thing that is very interesting this year is that the locust is a big threat, and we have been able to give that cover for that. For that peril. And what is happening is that we are hoping that we will be able to make sure that all the farmers that have been insured will be properly protected.
Okay.
Now, the other area that we have been able to support in the last 5 years has been the climate change. Because there have been many times when crops have been suffering because of lack of rain. And what has happened is in Kenya, there was a scene that we used to have droughts every one in 5 years. But now they have changed, and we can have droughts in 1 in 3 years, or in 1 in 2 years. And so the farmers have a big problem when the droughts occur.
I see. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ashok. Let me just hold you on to that thought as I bring in Team Steele, who deals in the food distribution business. Team, I'd imagine when you talk about food security, a key pillar of it is accessibility of food. And being in the distribution business, how are the restricted movement measures? Today, we've just seen Mandera County being added into this. And you're in that space where you take it to the very remote areas of this country. How is it looking like from your standpoint?
Yeah, I didn't hear you very well, but I'll try and answer what I think I heard. So, as the CS said, the accessibility of food is equally important as the supply of food or the quantity of food. And I think one of the key things that COPIA contributes to, as does the e-commerce industry in general, is at this time providing access to food in an extremely safe way, in the sense that people are now very cautious due to COVID about attending crowded marketplaces, traveling if they don't need to, and the e-commerce industry in general, and Copier especially in Mashinani, which is where we focus, and peri-urban areas and dense urban areas, areas where people have not normally had access to an e or m-commerce service. We're able to provide that service either by door-to-door delivery, or in the case of Copier, where we deliver to one of our 11,000 agents across 15 counties. We then allow people essentially to shop from home. No need to have to visit their agent to collect their goods, and therefore to be able to do it in a very, that's extremely important. Did you ask about the transport routes and difficulties of crossing those?
Correct. Yes, Tim, I did. You can hear me.
Okay, sorry, the sound quality is not very good. Yeah, so I think the government has acted extremely quickly and decisively in putting the right level of restrictions in place to prevent the spread of coronavirus due to restriction of movement of people. But again, as the CS said, accessibility of food is extremely important. So the exemptions that they've simultaneously announced in regard to the ability to cross borders, the ability to operate within curfew, have been extremely important in allowing supply chain to continue. So whilst there have been some teething troubles, and whilst I think it's important that government ensures that rules are applied consistently, I think the intent of the rules has been very, very well applied. We've had some difficulties. We've chosen to operate within daylight hours primarily, rather than operating within the curfew, because we know that it will take a while until the message and the rules are properly communicated. But by and large, we're able now to operate exactly as normal with the exemptions that the government has provided.
All right, understood, Tim. And I just want to bring the CS before we take a quick break here. CS Munya, the issue of food distribution, of course, is an essential service in light of the curfew and the restricted movement. But there are some distributors who are still indicating to us that they face challenges when they're moving from one place to another, especially across counties. How is the Ministry of Agriculture involved in ensuring that this flow is as required? All right, we seem to be having a sound-ish challenge with the Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, who is part of our panel this evening as we focus on the question of food security in light of the challenges we are facing, the desert locust invasion as well as COVID-19. We are focusing on this subject because it is a matter of grave interest across the country right now. Incomes are depressed, and of course we have now heavy rains, floods in parts like West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet. So many Kenyans are asking the question about how they can guarantee their food security, which of course means the physical as well as economic, and that touches on the subject of affordability. We'll be taking a short break. We'll be back with more on this discussion.
Niaje wa Kenya, hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water, apply a small amount of soap, rub palms together, rub fingers and thumbs and the bits in between, rub nails on palms, rub the back of each hand, rinse with clean running water, and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness. such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Maritime Tips, brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for vessel and boat owners, operators, coxswains and passengers. Personal hygiene. Practice frequent hand hygiene, coughing and sneezing etiquette. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels such as steering wheel, safety or guardrails and seats. Crew members, coxswains and passengers to regularly disinfect life jackets. Practice frequent hand washing with soap. Wear a mask on board a boat or vessel. Boat owners and operators to comply with government directives on movement restrictions within counties. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
The risk of illness causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach, and use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifacts, JIC, and HAPIC.
Good morning, Janet.
Wow! And you are?
I'm Casey. Now help you with anything to do with your KCB bank account. Pay bills, transfers, statements.
You're hired.
I'm your internet banking security ninja. I'm your 24/7 personal assistant.
Super.
So, we can always talk about your account, online, whenever you like. Need a ride?
Let's go.
Alrighty. With you anywhere, anytime.
Register at your nearest branch for KCB Internet Banking today.
Nyaji wa Kenya, hii ni public service announcement kuhusu coronavirus.
The Ministry of Health advises all returnees from abroad to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, whether they feel well or unwell.
Wash your hands regularly following the 8 steps of hand washing. Wet hands with warm water. Apply a small amount of soap. Rub palms together. Rub fingers and thumbs and the bits in between. Rub nails on palms. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water and dry thoroughly with a clean dry towel.
Furthermore, it is advisable to cover your mouth and nose adequately when sneezing or coughing and immediately dispose of the tissue in a dustbin. Please do not use handkerchiefs if you can avoid it. If disposable tissue is unavailable, cough into your elbow. Try and avoid close contact with anyone showing signs of respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing.
Before you share any coronavirus information on social media, please verify it with Ministry of Health to avoid panic and alarm among your fellow Kenyans.
Each year, farmers can usually count on 2 rainy seasons. But with climate change, rain has become capricious.
Jua imewaka, hatujui kama tutavuna.
APA has developed a solution for small farmers weakened by the uncertainties of the climate.
If a farmer has a lower yield than 80%, be given the difference between whatever they have achieved and up to 80%.
Struck by drought, breeders struggle to find forage for their livestock. Here again, APA Insurance seeks to offer an alternative in the form of an index-based livestock insurance.
A warm and hearty welcome back to the Nation Leadership Forum, hashtag NMG Leadership Forum, where we are focusing on the subject of food security, that is the physical and economic access to safe and secure and nutritious food to meet your dietary needs according to your preferences. And this evening, of course, I am joined by a panel, including the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Mr. Peter Munya, as well as the Country Director for the Food and Agriculture Organization, Dr. Tobias Tabagarasha, and we also have the Chief Executive of APA Insurance, that is Ashok Shah, as well as Michelle Kagari from One Acre Fund, Team Steel from Copia, and we will be carrying on with our conversation where we are delving into this subject of food security. And before the break, we were speaking with the CS Munya, and addressing the issue of some food suppliers are telling us that despite their service being essential according to the regulations, they are still facing challenges in light of the curfew restrictions. CS Munya, what is the Ministry of Agriculture doing to ensure that food supplies are not disrupted?
Yes, what we have been doing at the government level is really to ensure that the disruptions are minimal, so that farmers and traders and the processors are able to go on with their businesses to continue feeding the nation. And the way to do this, we have organized the government into several committees, and one of the key committees is the Food Security and County Coordination Committee that has been working with the counties to ensure that there is minimum disruptions. And what we have done is we've set guidelines and protocols on how to run factories and how to run transport and how to open markets and how to ensure farming continues, even as we take safeguards to make sure that we are safe from this pandemic. The committee that I chair has also now, given the fact that sometimes the information doesn't reach the beneficiaries correctly because of the different hands it has passed through, and sometimes those who are managing the local situation are not able to interpret this information well. We have set up an outline. In fact, it is right functional now, which anybody who has a challenge and down there in the country can be able to reach our war room, because we have set also a war room that is responding on real-time basis on any issues that is affecting farming, transportation of food, transportation of essential services relating to food security across the countries. So our hotline is 0800-724-891. That hotline is functional, and every county has also been asked to set up a hotline that is connected with this one, Safaricom, so that if you can call at national level, if they are challenged, you can also call at the county level. Every county has also a committee that is responding on a day-to-day basis on any challenge that's affecting food supply chains at the local level. The national government officers are in that committee, and the county governors are there. At the national level, the agriculture committee of the county government is also represented in this committee. The other things that we have been doing at the national level is to ensure that food is available, it is also accessible, and it's also water is also available and also accessible.
Yes, let me hold you to that thought.
The way to do this is we have been also monitoring. We have put up mechanism in the situation room to monitor on a weekly basis the availability of food stocks and essential food supplies across the country. And we are also publishing this information on our website so that Kenyans can be able also to give us feedback on that. And we have a network looking at counties to ensure that food stocks are available. We are also monitoring prices and price volatility again across the country to ensure that that food is also available, and it's also not, prices are not hiked by holding and also panic responses to this pandemic.
Yes, allow me to hold you on to that, because I'll be coming back to the subject of food security within the context of devolved and national governments. I want to bring in Michelle, who deals with smallholder farmers. 70% of our farmers are smallholders, and of course at this particular point they are under pressure to scale up their productivity in light of the restrictions we are facing in terms of goods coming into the country, for example. How best can this be done in terms of scaling up smallholder farmer productivity in light of the situation, Michelle?
As the CS has said, the government has already done quite a lot to try and ensure that the food value chain is protected, and there's more that we can do. So providing or designating the entire food value chain as essential services will definitely unlock blockages that will allow for inputs to reach farmers. It will minimize the disruptions of farmers being able to get their produce to market. Other interventions that can be made is definitely, as been mentioned before, is strengthening the coordination even further by, for example, ensuring that the directives that are made are extremely clear so that every county, the interpretation, everyone is on the same page. We've had challenges there where people are interpreting things differently. And then finally, one of the key things that can be done is keeping an eye on the pricing in market and any market distortions so that inputs can remain affordable to farmers, produce can remain affordable to Kenyans.
Okay. And Dr. Tobias, some have argued that in light of the number of shocks we've suffered from the fall armyworm to the desert locust invasion, the floods we're now experiencing, some have argued that perhaps our early warning system is not robust enough. Does FAO share this assessment?
Actually, we are saying with the increasing knowledge and experience on the ground, our early warning systems are in recent years. We are able to give warnings about the threats of drought, threats of, threats of invasion of pests and locusts, pests like locusts and armyworm. But like any forecasting, you cannot 100% guarantee that it will care on exactly the time that it does. What we then do is to increase and improve our preparedness and the resilience. The preparedness starts at level farmers to make sure that they are properly equipped to be able to produce when the conditions are weak. Prepared also to ensure that we have sufficient inputs and reserves in preparation or anticipation of any eventualities. When we talk of food security, there are three basic components that we look at. There is the availability, the accessibility, and then utilization. The availability is the one that is facing the threats, climate change from pests which affect the capacity of farmers to produce. Accessibility is also affected by the infrastructure and distribution mechanism that we have. And with the coming in of COVID-19, to ensure that the food to people is affected or jeopardized by the restrictions that are in place. When you come to utilization, that's when you look at people able to afford. Are they buying the correct varieties of food, correct diets, and are they actually eating it for them to have a healthy and sufficient life? So this whole spectrum of food that relates to the availability of food. In the case complicated by imports, yes, for many countries in Africa, we also look at the infrastructure and to bring foods needed. So there are many threats, but also there are many solutions that are being put in place. So we are building resilience on the capacity of farmers to produce. We are building resilience capacity of institutions, including government and itself, to be able to provide the knowledge and information and the capacity to address situations when they arise.
Okay.
But I just want to underline and underscore that the issue of fighting against hunger is a fight, and that fight has to deal with climate, deal with pests, deal with economic situation, now to deal with the So we have many activities that are there for that win.
Okay. Speaking about many challenges as well as many opportunities of building resilience, I want to ask Ashok, when I speak to many players who give these services of agriculture and largely crop insurance, the one challenge they point to us is that getting reinsurance for their portfolio becomes a challenge, which means then they cannot offer this service to farmers out there. How significant is this a challenge, and to what extent does it derail our ability to enhance our food security?
Julians, yes, reinsurance is a very important aspect for the business we do. What is happening is that the risk of agriculture insurance is a very big risk, and unless we have got good reinsurance support, we cannot really insure the farmers that we are insuring. Unfortunately, the farmer in Kenya is not aware of insurance. And that's why we rely on aggregators like 1 Acre Fund, DG Farm, and others to make sure that we can take insurance to those farmers. But what has happened is that in the last 5 years, we have actually grown the capacity. The Kenyan insurers, there are about 7 of us who have really tied up together and said that we will take on the risk and that we have convinced the reinsurers to support us. Last year, we had the issue of the armyworm that was spoken about. And reinsurers were saying that they will not cover armyworms. And we were able to convince them that, look, let us cover armyworms and let's see how we can fare. And because the Ministry of Agriculture had done a lot of work, we were able to alleviate that risk. And we were able to make sure that armyworms did not affect the crops. This year, what we came up with was the locusts. And normally, like COVID, locusts are a pandemic, and nobody will be willing to cover. We had, after extensive negotiations, we were able to convince the reinsurers to cover the locusts as well. So we've been very lucky that we've got support of reinsurers. Just to advise the viewers and everybody who is watching this program, that in the last 5 years that we have been doing insurance, we have done the livestock insurance where for drought we have paid 700 million shillings in claims. For the crop, we have been much more lucky. We have paid about 155 million shillings in claims to the farmers. But this has happened because the reinsurers have supported us. And the group that we have, we keep 20% of the risk and 80% is reinsured by reinsurers out on our behalf. Now, the thing that we are looking at is that making sure that if we can continue with good coverage to the farmers, we will be able to convince the reinsurers to keep on supporting us, because we are seeing that the number of farmers who are taking up insurance will grow up. And as they go up, it will make sure that we will be able to bring other types of insurances to the farmers, just not the crop insurance, but we will also bring in personal insurances for their lives, for their other personal needs.
Okay.
And so if we can increase that penetration within the farming community, then what will happen is the overall penetration of insurance will also increase.
I see. Before I jump on to Tim Steele, who has a point on distribution, let me get to Michelle, who has some thoughts regarding the subject of agriculture insurance. Michelle?
Thank you. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear Ashok very clearly, but definitely this is one area where the government has been very supportive. Over the last 3 years, we've actually had a partnership where the government has subsidized the crop insurance. And it's essential that this service, where there's an insurance subsidy for government, continues, because it will help provide that critical safety net that will bolster farmer resilience and help us get through this crisis.
All right. Tim, just to get some thoughts on you, many are asking the whole e-commerce idea when it comes to food distribution. It sounds like it's largely on a smartphone, and how does it get to the very grassroots of this country in terms of food distribution? How does that work given this level of informality that we have in our value chains?
I'm really sorry, Julian. I didn't hear the question at all. There's too much interference on the line.
Oh, sorry, Tim. My question, if you can get me clearly, is with regard to food distribution, one of the key questions we are having is how do you ensure that it is getting to the very grassroots of this country, given that you're dealing with an e-commerce platform, and the perception out here is that that typically is in the urban-centric areas, living outside the rural areas?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I got it that time. Thank you. Yeah, I think that is the perception, and what Copia is doing is rather different in that our focus is on providing exactly that same level of quality and access to choice of goods at really fair prices with quality products to millions of Kenyans in Mashinani. The way that we do that is really to build trust. We do that through positioning agents in village in villages, in dense urban areas and so on, who are really part of COPIA. The agents are part of the community and part of COPIA at the same time. And in tackling this issue of COVID, it's really important and that our agents are able to operate in, let's say, the regulated environment and with exactly the same focus on the sanitization of the supply chain and therefore the safety and wellness of all of our customers in exactly the same way that COPIA is with our fulfillment process, our distribution process and our own staff. So we're really keen that we make sure that our services are allowing people to operate in a very safe way. If I may, can I just go back to the point the CS made about the regulation around the movement restrictions that are in place? I think that one of the secrets to tackling COVID and simultaneously providing access to food consistently for the whole country is private-public cooperation. And COPIA has been very pleased to be part of the National Business Compact on coronavirus, part of the Safe Hands Kenya group, and we feel privileged to have been invited to join the Ministry of Agriculture War Room on food security as well. I think it's important that that cooperation extends to regulation as well. And our suggestion would be that automation is the way to go to regulate. The process at the borders and through the curfew is very manual, very paper-based at the moment. And Kenya, quite rightly, has a very strong reputation for being at the center of ICT and at the forefront of Africa in those developments. We think it would be very easy to regulate by provision of vehicle registration numbers, national ID numbers for personnel and vehicles that are accredited and licensed to operate and moving essential and critical supplies around. And we'd be very happy to cooperate with any authorities in designing that system that would allow us to operate 24/7 and therefore ensure that supply chains are completely uninterrupted and bring the food to Kenyans that they will need in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, thanks. And let me get to the CS Munya, discussing the subject of devolution, rather agriculture as a devolved function. How are you coordinating between the national and county governments, especially in light of the extraordinary circumstances that we have as far as food security is concerned?
Yes, at the very beginning I explained that we are working with the counties and we have a committee that is coordinating at the national level, interventions at the county level. And these committees have also been cascaded at the county level, sub-county level, up all the way to the Nyumba Kumi level. And this committee at the national level is what is supposed to coordinate all that. In terms of food distribution, we already have already rolled out a payment platform supported by our command center, that as we have already been able to identify all the vulnerable people and families, and already money is being disbursed to them electronically. I just wanted to comment on this issue of technology being an enabler in terms of bringing efficiency and also reducing time and costs in ensuring food production and also food distribution. So our system, which we have been piloting, which we call e-voucher, is currently being utilized to distribute money to support vulnerable people across the country. Let me also say, even in terms of monitoring locust and containment, we have what we call e-locust, which is also being used to monitor where locusts are roosting and therefore aiding the intervention that we are undertaking. Mm-hmm. May I also say that we are working on a e-payment system where we will also be supporting those who are receiving inputs and then paying for those inputs. For example, the money we are giving to coffee farmers on the cherry advance, yes. The ultimate solution is to be able to pay them electronically. All farmers will have their own cans, and then they will be able to collect their inputs from the ungrown dealers electronically, and then the agro-dealers are paid centrally.
Okay.
Let me also say that currently we are trying to come up with one integrated system in agriculture that will integrate all the electronic solutions that are in agriculture, so that they inform each other and synergize each other through a system we are calling National Agriculture Integrated Information Management System, that will bring all the data together and also integrate all the solutions that are available in agriculture, so that we are better coordinated, and this will help us also save resources, and at the same time be able to collect data on a day-to-day basis, and therefore find solutions to our problems because of the availability of data that we have, because of the integration of these systems. In fact, yesterday I launched a committee that is working on how to integrate these solutions together, bring them together, create one backbone that will help us sort out agricultural problems.
Great.
I thought I needed to say that because I already explained the issue of how we are coordinated at the national level.
Correct.
Through the counties.
So yes, you've spoken about inputs, and I have a question. If you read the supplementary budget, which has been tabled by the National Treasury and of course has been debated by Parliament last week and today, one of the issues being proposed there is that a number of farming inputs, or should I say agriculture inputs, will be subject to taxes such as VAT. Fertilizer is one of them. How does this portend for food security in the country should it pass in its present form?
Well, we will, of course, remember that government is funded by the citizens. And therefore, when you bring in tax measures that are expected to reduce burdens, you cannot reduce completely, then there is no resources to run the government and run solutions. So the issue of VAT having been lowered generally for everybody from 16% to 14%, it means that there are going to be big shortage of resources within government to fund programs. But we are alive to that fact that some of the inputs that are required in agriculture, chemicals and fertilizer, may slightly go up because of VAT. But remember, we have already worked in government to bring down the cost of inputs in a big way. Because we removed in the middlemen who are trading on fertilizers and other inputs, and address this issue by bringing in the processors themselves, those who actually produce fertilizer, whom we are facilitating to distribute fertilizer across the country. And that's why we were able to bring down the planting fertilizer called DAP from 2,800 to 3,000 to now 2,300.
Yes.
The planting fertilizer, we have also be able to bring it down.
Okay.
In fact, I'm told now the KNTC and NCPB are buying at 1,500 from Mombasa. Once they transport it, will come to around 1,500. Again, we have brought it down.
Okay.
So the slight increase that may come because of the VAT inclusion will not be significant. But once the economy improves again, because at the end of the day, resources to fund governments must be generated by the economy. Once the economy recovers from the challenges we are experiencing now, then we will be able again to relook into the cost of inputs to bring them down.
Okay.
But I also wanted to say that within our planning and our programs in agriculture, we have also put in resources to support vulnerable people, to subsidize inputs for vulnerable people. Even though we have removed the subsidy that was there, we have not removed it entirely for everybody. We just removed it, but reintroduced it for the vulnerable. Because what happened is that fertilizer was being provided, it's subsidized, but then it's subsidized for everybody.
All right.
Even big farmers who can afford,
yes.
Even rich people who can afford, because there was no criteria for identifying people who are really in need, who needs to be supported to come up.
Thank
and
you,
this is what we are calling resilience, building resilience, supporting livelihoods for small-scale farmers and pastoralists by supporting them through inputs that are targeted and affordable. And therefore, within our budgeting, in fact, this year, this year, we already have around 2 billion that we'll be utilizing to subsidize inputs and fertilizer to the farmers, but making sure that money reaches the people who need it. And that's why we are using electronic platforms, e-vouchers, that the people already identified and who are in a database who have been given a voucher, they go to an agro dealer, buy the fertilizer, pay what they're supposed to pay, then government now pays the dealer a subsidy. So we are combining all this to make sure that those who require support are given the support. And once the economic recovery takes off, then we will be able to also to address some of those issues you have raised about the slight increase that may come because of the introduction of VAT on inputs.
Thank you very much, CS. And on that note, we take a short break. We'll be back with much more discussion on the food security question.
Today's a toilet day.
What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Harpic 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Harpic 10X will give you.
Wow!
Harpic 10X. Harpic, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
Shawa ni sawa, ukishawa na sawa.
Inakawia bana, inakawia
Shawa ni sawa.
Wazi yangu iko sawa, ninanukia vifiti.
Shawa ni sawa.
Rangi ya kupendeza bei, iko poa shing shing shing.
Shawa ni sawa.
Usisleki bana, wetu mia sawa ushinde.
Sawa all day.
Sour Shower has never been better with the new look Sour. Now with a new formulation too that will leave you feeling fresh for longer, while the soap lasts even longer.
John suffers from indigestion. His twin James suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Discovered the world-famous Smallfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Smallfix is. Smallfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Smallfix.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Birthday party.
Birthday party. Birthday party.
Birthday party.
Are we not invited? We have gifts. Malaria.
Mommy, best.
Run.
Oh, die.
Party.
Compared to an ordinary spray, Mortein Doom Power Guard kills disease-causing pests instantly. Mortein Doom Power Guard.
Dettol's main objective is to help children protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold?
No!
They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap that gives the best germ protection ever against many illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath, bath, bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Save cash by buying Pampers at reduced prices. The Jumbo Pack has reduced from $1,750 to $1,400. The Value Pack is now $720 from $990. And the Carry Pack is $199 from $220. Save, save, save with Pampers today.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
This is NTV.
Tonight,
as part of the containment measures, the government has today directed restriction of movement into and out of Mandera County.
Mandera contained, Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi may be going into lockdown from Friday. And the rains are still falling hard and the death toll is going up. 3 more deaths and many more displaced and devastated. Also tonight, almost 3,000 acres of land in Ruai set aside for sewage systems allegedly grabbed, and the state is taking it back. Another scam linked to the deputy president.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Kira! Kira? Where are you?
Malaria!
That's why you need the superior protection of Mortein 360-degree reach. Only this has 11 fans which enable it to reach the farthest corners. Mortein, total indoor protection.
Clarion hand sanitizers and face masks. Protect yourself against COVID-19. We have a series of products to keep you safe during this COVID-19 pandemic. Clarion hand sanitizers are alcohol-based and very effective to fight bacteria and viruses. We have the best quality surgical 3-ply face masks, triple layered for maximum protection. We are looking for distributors countrywide. Contact us on 0703 222 000.
Dettol's main objective is to help children protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold?
No!
They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap that gives the best germ protection ever against many illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath, bath, bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands. Mouthfix, salsa and
Look how happy my baby is. I've tried different brands, but now I've discovered the world-famous Smallfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Smallfix is. Smallfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Smallfix.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight, especially when others are fleeing away. However, Clearsoft. I can make it so easy.
Clearsoft iko na 3 times particle energy to particles to blue husaidia kutoa mastain ngumu ngumu na ina enzymes za kulinda nguo zako ndio ziachwe zikikaa fresh.
Clearsoft kicks out stains kimateki.
Serious? Melissa?
Mom, it's Dad's birthday today. I'm giving him a party just like he gives me.
Nothing makes a mother more proud than seeing her child growing up. But I know that as she learns to care for others, she'll face even more germs and the risk of illnesses.
That's why you need strong Dettol protection. Just 1 cup of Dettol protects your home and family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
And welcome back to the Nation Leadership Forum, hashtag NMG Leadership Forum, where we are focusing on the subject of food security in light of the shocks we are facing from COVID-19 to the Locust invasion, and just trying to unpack the situation in the country and what can be done to better prepare ourselves and to enhance our capacity to mitigate the challenges we are facing. Moving quickly to my panel, where I have Michelle Kagari from 1 Acre Fund. Financing of smallholder farmers is a key challenge because commercial banks and other lenders will tell you their risk is considerably high. How can this be addressed as far as enabling smallholder farmers to enhance food security in the country is concerned?
Certainly, 1 Acre Fund's experience has been that the assessment that farmers are high risk is a myth. We are currently serving around 450,000 farmers. We recognize that one of the big obstacles for smallholder farmers is having the financing to access high quality farm inputs. So what 1 Acre Fund does is that we provide these farm inputs on credit to farmers. We bear the cost initially, and then farmers pay us back on flexible repayment. They pay us back what they can when they can, and the only proviso is that they have paid back their loan by the end of the season. And consistently since we started in 2006, our repayment rates have been 97–98%. We are not an NGO, we are an agricultural service provider, and we need the farmers to pay back their loans so we can continue providing services, and farmers need us to provide those inputs to them on credit. This year, our loan portfolio is 4.5 billion.
I see. And a 98% repayment rate certainly doesn't sound bad at all. I want to move to Ashok. Still on the subject of financing of smallholder farmers, this is where insurance products come in, because then they help to at least package the farmer in a way that makes them presentable from a risk perspective. If my produce is insured, then at least I have a safeguard. How do you view this situation?
Yes, thank you, Julians. What the difficulties that a Kenyan farmer has is that they require the finance to make sure that they can buy the inputs and look after the crop until the harvest. Then the other part of the equation is that they should be able to sell the product when it is ready, when it is harvested. Now, insurance has been able to can provide the security that a bank requires, but unfortunately, we've not been able to convince many financiers, banks, and others to really support a farmer when they know that there is insurance cover for them. So we are trying to grow that area. Now, a smallholder farmer has two problems that they have. One is either to have finance, and now with COVID, if they don't have finance, they normally rely on their families, the children who can send them money to buy the inputs. Now with COVID, that even that area can be difficult. They will not get the funds they require. But what we need to do is we need to find a way of convincing the financiers, the banking industry, to see how they can support a farmer for the inputs and the growing of the crop. That is something that we need to educate the financial industry and also to make sure that the support of the government is there.
Okay.
The other area that I said is the issue of taking the goods to the market. Now, because the farmer requires the money, they have to sell the goods immediately that they harvest. Is it possible for us to have storage facilities where the farmer can store their goods until the price is right for them to release it? We have the warehouse receipt facility that is if there for some crops. If we can bring it for all the other crops like maize, potatoes, and good storage facilities, good warehousing facilities, then the goods are only released when the price is right, the market is right, and the farmer can then benefit from higher prices for their goods, for the crops.
Some good nuggets there, Ashok.
The other area that we must worry about is the other area that we need to worry about is the support to the farmer during the advisory services. Somebody like One Acre Fund provides the advisory services, but there are so many other farmers which require good advisory services, and we need to work with the ministry and with the county extension officers in that area.
Let me hold you on to that, Ashok, and move to Tobias. Dr. Tobias, Michelle argues that the perception that farmers are high risk and more so for smallholder farmers is a myth. Is this a view you share?
I only share the view that it's costly to mobilize resources for smallholder farmers because of the small size of their operations, but that does not necessarily make them risky. Farmers, when they are supported, especially women farmers, have been shown to be very quick to repay their loans. So it is just a question of reducing the cost of getting money to the smaller farmers. And that can be done by supporting them in having access to inputs without having to put an outlay of huge resources. Then they carry on with their farming. Other mechanisms involve assisting them to buy their crops in advance. Companies can help, agribusiness companies can help by actually pre-financing some of the crops that they are grown by farmers. A third area is aggregation. Because of the small size of farmers and the risk that comes with it, when farmers are supported to be aggregated, not necessarily as cooperatives, but even to buy bulk together, that minimizes the cost or reduces the cost of lending to farmers. But I would share the view that it's a myth that smallholder farmers don't pay back loans or are too risky, but it is just that it is the high cost of getting money to farmers. But when they are given to farmers and the training and the support, our experience shows that farmers can respond. Smallholder farmers can respond, and they can respond more when they are doing cash crops that have a ready market like coffee, tea, those type of crops. Farmers have been seen to respond very quickly. In the food security crops that they do, this is where we need to focus our attention to make sure that we strengthen their capacity to borrow money as groups and they share the risk. Thank you.
I see. And crossing over to Tim, still on the subject of food distribution, we had an incident, if you can hear me, Tim, recently where food distribution within the city of Nairobi in a particular area turned extremely chaotic. And many are curious to know, what are some of the ideas you could share as far as, especially in light of COVID-19 and the thought that food distribution needs to come in handy? How can this be better executed by the state?
Julian's, was that question to me?
Yes, correct.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yeah, I think that we've all had experience where, particularly in the informal sector and in highly dense areas, distribution of anything which is perceived to be free can create chaotic situations. And I'm, again, aware that the government has directed for the time being that those should stop. And I think that until such time that they can be carried out securely, which in many cases they can, that's probably a good directive. I think that the key thing, and this is where e-commerce, m-commerce comes in once again, is it is possible to distribute food and indeed transfer from the formal sector to the informal sector in a much more direct way, direct to the customer, direct to the consumer, direct to the people who actually need it. The CS was talking earlier about the fiscal stimulus to the economy. And one would hope that in the formal sector, those of us as individuals and corporates will use the tax reductions to benefit members of our families, our communities who are in the informal sector. And many of Copier's customers are the smallholder farmers that all of the other panelists have just been describing the challenges that they're facing. And we're worried about the future of our smallholder farmers, our customers. So one way that we can overcome the distribution of food is that we place, or customers place orders through our agents, and then we deliver direct to the individual customer. So long as there is adequate supply of food, so long as the supply chain is protected and can operate economically, then there will be no risk of riots or chaos while that food is distributed, because it's going directly to the hands of an individual person who ordered it. Another way that e-commerce can help in that respect is we're all aware that there is significant support for rural informal sectors from the city, from people in salaried positions who transfer goods either by driving them there themselves or by putting them on transport to get them to their relatives in rural areas. Of course, now that's very difficult with the partial lockdown of the Nairobi metropolitan area. But again, e-commerce, or specifically Copier, can help, because a customer in the city can now log onto our website, place an order on behalf of their rural relatives, and it will be delivered in 2 days with no transport cost. And that can apply to food, and it can also apply to agricultural farming inputs, fertilizers, feeds, and so on and so on. So I think in every which way, the new normal is that e-commerce is going to become more and more of a preferred method of shopping that keeps that connectivity between the city and rural areas, but also allows people to operate in this new environment in a very safe and efficient way.
All right, thanks, Tim. Quickly now moving to our closing comments on this subject. I want to move to the CS, and really briefly, CS Munya, if you can hear me. There's a question that we are getting out of public interest. If Kenya, for example, today went into a lockdown, do we have enough food stock to meet the demands of the public? Very briefly, CS.
Yes, if there was a lockdown, we are prepared for it in case it came. We are monitoring food stocks, and now we have put measures. And I told you we are creating something we are calling a war room, a situation room that analyzes, gathers data and analyzes on day-to-day basis and produces reports on weekly basis to inform us on where we are on food security. And we monitor all the staples that are consumed across the country to ensure that we have stocks that can last us for a long time before we do interventions to either import or reach the harvest time when we can get the food. So really there is nothing to worry in terms of availability of food. We are also monitoring pricing and price volatility to make sure that if prices shoot too high, then we have measures to intervene to make sure that we bring them to stability so that consumers are also protected, even as the producers are also earning value for what they are producing.
Thank you.
So there is no cause for worry. Obviously, you always hear challenges here and there, and depending on who is affected by what, you always hear people making comment. But there is a general monitoring mechanism that giving us the complete picture, so that there is no cause for alarm.
CS Munya, the point is
on importation, again, what we have done already for the balance of the food that we realized after June, we may have a shortage of maize before the harvest. We have already facilitated the private sector to import 4 million bags of maize, which will be attracting duty to make sure, again, it's not too cheap and it does not interfere with the current price stability in the maize sector. Again, to protect the farmer and also ensure that the consumer and gets food.
CS Munya, I have to hold you on to that point and move to Michelle for her closing remarks. Very briefly, Michelle, please.
Thank you. I think farmers are the backbone of Kenya's food security. They are open for business. They are ready to work. And what they need is for the entire food value chain to be protected, to be designated as essential services, and for interventions to be made carefully that do not disrupt the supply chains or the value chains. And we definitely need to strengthen our coordination across all government partners and other stakeholders to ensure that we minimize disruptions to food production, distribution, and to the consumer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Tobias, very briefly, your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are to say there's been a time that we have seen the need for working together in partnership in order to deal with these challenges. In the United Nations system, we have started well. We work as one team to address the various challenges that we have. And also, we have seen some very positive response from development partners who are based in Kenya and internationally. When we made an appeal to support the Locust invasion, they've come forth, and we've made a second appeal through the resident coordinator of United Nations for appeal towards COVID-19. And we are very positive and happy that by working together, supporting the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya, we can address these challenges together.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok. Your closing thoughts, please?
Yes, thank you, Julian. What we are looking at is that a Kenyan farmer is a very hardworking person. But what we are making sure is that by giving a guarantee that 80% of his crop will always be paid for, whether by a good harvest or through insurance. And if every year, if every season they have that 80% guarantee, then what will happen is they will start going for better farming practices, improving the crop yields, and having a better lifestyle. And at the end of the day, what will happen is that even their children will now start thinking that farming is an alternative that they can have rather than going to the city. So we will like to build the confidence of a farmer, build his wealth, and build his lifestyle.
Thank you very much. And Team Steele, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I think that the challenges of COVID, locusts, and social and economic issues that are going to arise from that are mainly ahead of us. I think it's been tough so far, but I fear it's going to be tougher. And I think it's so important at this time that we maintain this spirit of public-private cooperation and work together to remove the frictions that are existing, hopefully only temporarily, in the supply chain, so that we all work together to keep Kenya fed, fit and healthy. That's our shared mission, I think, and COPIA is ready to play our part along with the rest of the e-commerce industry.
All right, thank you very much, Team Steele. And CS Munya, very briefly, in about 20 seconds, the question here is, can agriculture players across the value chain be rendered to be essential services in light of food security? Very briefly.
No, indeed. Actually, all the players in the agricultural value chain are regarded as essential services. And we have communicated this information across the government to ensure that all government agencies facilitate players in the agricultural sector to do their activities without any interruption. What has been happening is sometimes people don't have this information, and that's why we have set up this hotline for you to call if you have a challenge. Either you are transporting your food to the market or to the storage, or you are transporting inputs from Mombasa to the cities. Any player within the value chain, you are an essential service provider, and therefore you are supposed to be facilitated by government to make sure that you do what you do to sustain our economy even within the crisis we are having on COVID-19, as long as you take the precautions that have been given by government. Okay. Therefore, at the county level now, there is also a hotline that is connected to the hotline we have set up. Below the sub-county level, there is also a committee coordinating. So be proactive. It is also, of course, not possible to gazette everybody, to produce a Kenyan gazette that puts every company and says this is an essential service. But it is agreed within government that all farming activities at production, farming level, trading, market, supplies, whatever, are all regarded as essential services and backbone to our agricultural transformation and growth and even recovery post-COVID-19.
Thank you. Many thanks to our CS for Agriculture, Mr. Peter Munya, for being part of the conversation, and the entire Ministry of Agriculture. I'd like to also say thank you to One Acre Fund, Michelle Kagari, who has been present and giving some very insightful thoughts. The Food and Agriculture Organization, Dr. Tobias Takavarasha, thank you very much for being part of this. We'd also like to thank AP Insurance, that is Ashok Shah, who has been good insights in terms of insurance and how farmers can secure themselves. And finally, to Tim Steele, the Chief Executive Officer of Copia Global. Many thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for this conversation on food security. It continues online, and of course, this is a subject we'll continue covering in light of the risks we are facing. That takes us to the end of the NMG Leadership Forum, the virtual edition focusing on food security.
This is NTV.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. Dentists recommend Sensodyne to their patients. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down. And the proof's in the results. It works.
Mwalimu Plus app is the intelligent e-tutor enabling learning with high-quality digital content, and it's the best to support your child's most productive struggle. Mwalimu Plus app is good with interactive problem solving for students to solve. The system guides students while they work through the problems.
The app is free for Class 4 and 6, and Class 3, 5, 7 and 8 pay 50% or pay just 5 bob a day. Download the Mwalimu Plus app on Google Play, register, and watch your child's performance improve.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
Enda usheze hapo nje na nasi. Wacha nichukue gazeti. Aila tila. Kumbuka ndadi kuna kitu mficha. Nini hiyo? Mkate. Mkate. Unaona selector sasa hii selector iko na kizesta. Maze. Unajua watu wengine wanaambia sasa nini? Ati mkate yote kubwa ni selector. Hapana. Selector ni selector.
Selector. The difference is in the taste. And now, Selector comes with free Zesta jam for a limited period of time.
Birthday party.
Birthday party. Birthday party.
Birthday party.
Are we not invited? We have gifts. Malaria.
Mommy, best.
Run.
Or die.
Party.
Compared to an ordinary spray, Mortein Doom Power Guard kills disease-causing pests instantly. Mortein Doom Power Guard.
Look how happy my baby is. I tried different brands, but now I've discovered the world-famous Smallfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Smallfix is. Smallfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Smallfix.
Melissa?
Mom, it's Dad's birthday today. I'm giving him a party just like he gives me.
Nothing makes a mother more proud than seeing her child growing up. But I know that as she learns to care for others, she'll face even more germs and the risk of illnesses.
That's why you need strong Dettol protection. Just 1 cup of Dettol protects your home and family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Hey, naitwa Stella na natokea mtaa Kibera.
Niaje wase, DJ Soxy hapa.
Naitwa Saize Tribona na kwambia corona haina tiba.
Watu, mnajaniaje jokali hapa?
My name is Wanjiko Kinothia and I am working from home.
Mugaka hapa, hii coronavirus haina tiba.
Tiba ni mimi, tiba ni wewe, tiba ni sisi.
This is NTV.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on this 22nd day of April 2020. And it's been 41 days since the first case was reported here in Kenya. And the numbers, unfortunately, are going up, and that's of the confirmed cases. However, there is some good news. If we're about to see the numbers that we have at this hour, and globally, the global numbers of the coronavirus cases is over 2.6 million, having claimed 180,000 lives around the world. Now here in Kenya, it's just over 300, and at least we can report there have been more recoveries, at least 9 today, and that brings it up to 83. And thankfully, no more deaths from the coronavirus thus far that can be reported. Well, let's have a look at what we can expect on NTV tonight.
Tonight,
as part of the containment measures, the government has today directed restriction of movement into and out of Mandera County.
Mandera contained, Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi may be going into lockdown from Friday. And the rains are still falling hard and the death toll is going up. 3 more deaths and many more displaced and devastated. Also tonight, almost 3,000 acres of land in Ruai set aside for sewage systems allegedly grabbed, and the state is taking it back. Another
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai.
They say money makes the world go round, but now a deadly silent enemy is stealthily pulling the brakes on it and claiming its reign. The COVID-19 pandemic is handing not just Kenya, but the world a crash course on fiscal planning and financial policy as the Great Lockdown sounds echoes from the Great Recession of nearly a century ago. Experts are warning that our national pace of growth is likely to shrink by nearly half the 2020 projection. And now, more than ever, the foundation upon which our fragile economy sits faces its toughest test yet, summed up in this timeless posit that the common denominator in determining the economic progress of a nation is a collective progress of its individual people, many who are now running on empty. Hello and welcome to Team Coverage Wednesday on this day, and we have David Agondo, a sign language interpreter. So let's bring out the team that will help us break down the money matters this evening. And from Mombasa City, we have Kevin Mutai. Bridget Ngana is also live from Nakuru, and Oko Kusa joins us from Kisumu City. Here in the city, the capital, that is our innovation and training editor, Dan Mwangi, and reporter
reporters Lillian Kiarie and Anita Nkonge. Across the border is NTV's Uganda's Raymond Mujuni. You probably heard that tune there for Skype. Raymond Mujuni will be joining us live from Kampala. And our hashtag tonight is running on empty. And of course, join us in the conversation online as this continues. That's in a moment. But first, to an exclusive story that we have this evening. The Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation has moved in to reclaim over 2,700 acres of land in Ruai, which was grabbed by a top government official and a former member of parliament. The land meant for the development of sanitation facilities for Nairobi County and its environs was occupied by construction workers and Chinese developers who were evicted as bulldozers began digging trenches to secure the piece of land. NTV's Dennis Okari with the story.
This expansive piece of land, which the government says was meant for sanitation and storage facilities, as well as treatment plant for the city of Nairobi, was allegedly grabbed by private developers. Out of the original 4,440 acres of land set aside for the expansion of water and sewerage facilities, the grabbers allegedly took 2,726 acres and encroached the stinking sewage ponds. This piece of land has been linked to Deputy President William Ruto and former Lugari Member of Parliament Cyrus Jirongo, according to sources who spoke to NTV.
All I know is that I have the mother title. I have 3 titles actually. The mother titles to this land, and I've told you there are 3 portions of it, and they all total to the acreage I've told you, the 16.9 hectares. So if anybody is holding a paper and claiming to have ownership of the land here, I think they have to prove that.
Right next to the sewage ponds are numerous settlements which the state says people have illegally built houses, disregarding the dangers and making it impossible to expand the treatment plant, which is now inhabited by hippos and crocodiles. Those who have invaded this land have been given 72 hours to vacate the property before demolitions start on Sunday.
This is the most suitable site for sewerage management in the entire city. It is naturally the lowest point. Where you are is the lowest point of the city, and this is the only place that sewerage can flow by gravity.
Snaking through the northern boundary is the meandering Nairobi River, where the sewage overflows because the system was last upgraded 40 years ago. The plant located along Kangundo Road, east of the city along the eastern bypass at Ruai, was already fenced, and Chinese developers had set up houses here. They were contracted to build a go-down project not far from the sewage ponds. Another source said there was a plan to acquire this space for the affordable housing project. But Wednesday, the contractors were forced to pack whatever they could get in the area after bulldozers and excavators started bringing down structures around the piece of land.
You cannot go put up a house on a toilet. I mean, you cannot. This is basically a toilet for the population of Nairobi. So it is terribly bad manners for anybody to come and start establishing you cannot put a house here.
According to a status report from the government, several sanitation sites have been identified in Dandora, Ruai, Kariobangi and Karen, among other areas.
We have secured as a ministry from the national government an amount of 20 billion Kenya shillings to spend on management of sanitation within the city of Nairobi.
The PS says that there has also been grabbing of the ministry's land for sewerage expansion, designated land in Kariobangi, Karura, Loresho, Farasi Pumping Station, Karen Ponds and Kabete Treatment Works. Dennis Okari, NTV.
And now changing focus to the issue on the coronavirus status, and there is of course concern that in the next few hours there might be a full-on lockdown in the coastal region given the concerns of people not observing the regulations that have been put in place. And this of course is after Mandera County was put on a partial lockdown, if you could call it that, containment of movement, because the government as well has found out that the patterns findings there show that there could well be a greater spread of the coronavirus as people are not observing the measures, but also given the positioning of the northeastern county, that is Mandera, which of course has a lot of people going in. Right now, the cases stand at 8, 2 of which are termed as urban refugees. And yes, it is on containment right now, becoming the 5th county after Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi. The decision was arrived at following the rising number of positive cases in the county, which the Ministry of Health says poses a high risk of transmission to the northeastern population and even beyond the borders. Kevin Mutai has that report.
From 7 p.m. this evening and for the next 21 days, there will be no movement in and out of Mandera by air or road. The cessation of movement order was given after the Ministry of Health saw the rising cases of the northeastern county. So far, 8 people have contracted the coronavirus.
As part of the containment measures, the government has today directed restriction of movement into and out of Mandera County. The county, therefore, becomes the 5th county where movement has been restricted.
Governor Ali Roba lauds the government's action in the fight against the disease, calling for law enforcement agencies to beef up security at all points of entry.
There are people on the road right now who this order is likely to catch them unaware, and as such we want to urge humane processing of the same as we firm up the lockdown process.
The move came after 2 of the infected persons were identified as urban refugees, leaving the county exposed to community transmission that could even find its way to refugee camps or even across the border.
Now, this is a dangerous situation because, as you are well aware, Mandela has a lot of is a corner county with neighbors on 2 sides, and is also affected by travel from other parts of the country.
Meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed the National Command Center on the coronavirus pandemic to review COVID-19 protocols in the counties of Mombasa, Kwale and Kilifi. Mombasa is the 2nd county after Nairobi, with more people infected with the virus owing to the blatant ignorance of the guidelines. The head of state has also recommended for possible stronger measures in the 3 coastal counties and immediately commenced the enforcement if authorities deem it necessary to contain the spread. The announcement of the new measures is expected in the next 48 hours. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
There have been more cases of people escaping from quarantine centers, and President Uhuru Kenyatta says they will be arrested and put in mandatory quarantine. The government has urged Kenyans to cooperate during this pandemic and help reveal the whereabouts of those who escape the quarantine centers. This comes as Kenya has recorded 7 new cases, raising the total number of 303. Helen Aura was at that 36th update and brings us this report.
The government has issued a stern warning to all Kenyans who have escaped from the quarantine facilities, as they will face the consequences. On the other hand, Kenyans are still being urged to be more vigilant so as to ensure the curve is flattened.
What seemed like a good escape plan for these Kenyans now seems to be a case of jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Questions have also emerged regarding the state of security at such centers.
It is not just in KMTC that people have escaped from quarantine. In fact, Mandela was the first place where people escaped from quarantine. And I would like to agree that it is not possible for people to simply walk out of an institution that has got security forces, that has got people charged with the responsibility of ensuring that people stay within the quarantine facilities.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has stressed that those who escaped quarantine will be apprehended and taken back to finish their quarantine period, as they are posing a threat to many Kenyans. This comes as the number of those who have tested positive for the virus today stands at 7. In Mombasa, 6, Nairobi, 1, bringing the national total count to 303. The government has also acknowledged the health repercussions brought about by the pandemic.
We are particularly concerned about mental health. Towards this end, we have established a psychiatric and psychological care help framework over this period. If you feel distressed and needing counseling or psychological care, please call 1199.
CS Kagwe emphasized the need for Kenyans to following the stipulated measures, noting the alarming rates in the East African region.
COVID-19 cases in Somalia have multiplied 9-fold in a single week, from 26 cases on April 13th to 237 by yesterday. In our neighboring Tanzania, the numbers have swollen 7-fold. These developments concern us. They might translate into frightening reality for the Horn of Africa.
Helen Aura, NTV.
To a different imminent disaster, the death toll from Chesegon's landslide has risen to 15. It has been 4 days since heavy rain started pounding the Bokot-Marakwet border area, leaving a humanitarian crisis in its wake. Over 490 families have been affected, displacing around 4,000 people who are now sheltering at a school with barely any food. Lois Wangoi spent some time with the families there and now reports.
On this day, we visit with the residents of the 5 villages up the hills where the landslide originated from before spreading over Chesegon area. Here, the residents of Kakiso, Kobil, Sewes, Kasimai and Katilit villages who survived the landslide have fled their dangerously destroyed lands and are camping at Wewo Primary School.
So kila mtu wa kila boma aliamua mikuu ni ponye. So wakati harakati ya kufuka mtoto ameenda hapo, na ukienda kuangalia kwa watu ambao tumewapoteza, watoto sana wadogo ndio walipoteza maisha yao.
The campsite sits at high altitude. As such, the cold here is particularly biting. Still, it is the only safe place available. Francis Chilimo is among those seeking refuge here. He lost his homestead and his father-in-law to the landslide.
Tulipata msichana moja tu na kijana moja. Sasa hao wengine 23 hawajulikani waliko sasa. Nilipoteza brother-in-law.
The government, however, maintains that only 18 people are missing. At this camp, they say they are yet to receive any kind of assistance from the government, though they've heard of food aid sent to Chesegon area.
Walikuwa watu 26, alafu 3 mpaka sasa ndio wameshapatikana. Alafu 23 mpaka saizi hawajulikana penye wako.
The landslide washed away their stocks of food, clothes and even animals. Here they sit and wait for well-wishers to feed them. Children here are tasked with collecting some logs of firewood. In the evening, they come in handy in lighting bonfires for some much-needed warmth. Residents here continue to hope that the search for their missing loved ones will bear fruit. In the meantime, they tell me they have more pressing problems such as lack of food and shelter. Last time they had a proper meal was yesterday evening, and they are now counting hours to today evening when they will have yet another meal. They take 1 meal a day. Lois Wangoi, NTV, Kipchuma at Elgeyo-Marakwet County.
It doesn't stop there. At least 2 people died after they were swept away by floodwaters in Ilaut, Samburu North on Tuesday evening. And farmers in Ahero and Garissa County are counting losses after heavy rains destroyed their crops. Rose Wangoi has that report.
Heavy rains have caused flash floods and left a trail of destruction in many parts of Samburu County. This is after River Ewasonyiro broke its banks following a heavy downpour. The most affected region is Ilaut in Samburu North, where 2 people were swept away by flood waters. The bodies of the 6-year-old and 30-year-old woman were later retrieved. A Ahero rice farmers are counting losses after their newly planted rice fields were submerged or washed away after River Nyando burst its banks following heavy rains. Several homesteads have been submerged and residents have been forced to move with their belongings to roadsides where they are now camping.
The extent of damage here to the farmers are unmeasurable. Sumu County government should come up with a way of embarking the River Nyando. If it cannot be opened, then other alternative pathways for that water should be found.
Farmers in Olwadag and Jamhuri farms in Garissa County are counting losses after River Tana burst its banks and flooded farms located near the river. Their farms are now flooded and inaccessible. Some farmers who are caught unawares had to wade through the waters to move to safer grounds. The county government has called on the area residents to heed warnings and move to higher grounds.
Corona imefunga town, kazi haiendelee huko town, yenye imebaki ni shamba na shamba naye ndio hii sasa maji inaanza kuleta madhara. Maembe tunashindwa kupeleka soko, nyanya imeanza kuwa tayari lakini hakuna barabara yenye tutapitisha.
More than 100 families have been displaced in a Manjalala location in Kwanza constituency following heavy rains that have pounded the area. Several roads have also been rendered impassable following the torrential rains.
Wajenzi wamepomoa ukuta ambao ilikuwa inasuiliwa na maji kuingia kwa mapoma ya watu. Hata sasa watu wanalala barabarani. Vyakula vyote vimefunikwa na maji. Sasa hatuna vile tunaweza kusaidia watoto, kulala ni shida.
The Kenya Meteorological Department has warned that the rainfall intensity will increase progressively into the month of May.
From the running rainwaters causing havoc in different parts of the country, let's look at another reality now, and that is of Kenyans, majority who are running on empty. That's the focus of our team coverage this Wednesday. And to kick us off this evening is Nakuru correspondent Bridget Singana. Bridget, one of the key austerity measures it seems that people are employing is budget cutting.
Well, Mark, desperate times do call for desperate measures, and what we're going through right now is no exception, rather. And Kenyan households are being forced to pinch on their finances due to the uncertain economic times brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, because in reality, nobody knows what the future holds. Take a look. Every time Jane Lynette Adhiambo walks through the aisles at this local supermarket, the choice of what to buy is often premeditated and within a tight budget. For this primary school teacher, the arrival of COVID-19 and the resultant government directives have altered life as she knew it.
You know, now things have to change. Your program has to change, your working time has to change, your shopping has to change, your budget has to change, the way you feed has to change, everything has to change. Because now, you know, when we stopped going to school, ilibidi sasa tukae nyumbani. Yeah, now I'm here with my girl not going to school. I'm here with my house girl, everybody is in the house. Sasa ni kuangaliana. And at the same time, you still have to provide.
It is that provision of daily needs that is bogging down not only Jane Lynette, but millions of families across the country whose income streams have been affected. Stocking up supplies might be a solution, but no one knows how long this will last.
No matter how much you shop and put things in the house, if the lockdown continues and you keep eating, they will still reduce. And it might reach a point where all your stock is gone. It's locked down. What will you do? So it still will be bad.
But could it be that staying home and limiting expenditure on entertainment and other public activities is helping to save more? Jane Lynette says, as long as the future remains uncertain, financial prudence through austerity is the way out.
I've tried to at least take away more of the luxuries. They now don't have to eat what they want, but now they have to eat what we budget for. They have to eat what we have cooked. They have to eat what is there.
Experts agree that home economics has changed significantly in these times, but it is both a lesson and an opportunity, they say.
We only talk of hand to mouth, simply because we have not sat and looked at what we are taking home keenly and have a budget for the same. It is sufficient. You can get some some money to be saved.
Even as government puts in place measures to cushion Kenyans from the economic shockwaves of this pandemic, it is clear that not every Kenyan will be reached in the manner they had wished. And so, for Jane Lynette and others like her, one has to make tough, cost-cutting decisions before looking to the state. Now, there are those people whose sources of income or whose finances have been depleted and their avenues for generating income have been terminated. And most people are going back to their contingency plans, and that is savings. Isn't that right, Okusa?
Well, Bridget, whether it is through the SACCOs or cooperative societies or banks or even community chambers, Kenyans have been known to save some money for a rainy day. And now, this is the time to return to that pot of solace.
We got to Nyalenda Estate right on time to catch Catherine Awuor putting up her wares on display. It has been more than a month since the county government of Kisumu banned all open-air markets in the region to curb the spread of coronavirus. And traders of second-hand clothes like Catherine have borne the brunt.
Vile nilikuwa nauza Kibuye, stop yenye nilikuwa naweka manguo iliibiwa. Vile tulifukuza tukarudi kwa nyumba, iliibiwa, tukarudi kuchukua vitu zetu tukapata zimeibiwa. Sasa kwa saa hii sina chochote.
That misfortune struck at a time when Catherine was in the process of repaying a 60,000 shillings development loan from a local savings society called Wadhekasu, where she is a member.
Nikarudi kwa sako, nikaambia wakubwa wetu waone vile watanisaidia. Wakasema maybe apply emergency loan. Sasa ilinibidi ni apply emergency loan.
The SACCO management says the uptake of the emergency loan service, which hitherto was unpopular among members, has now skyrocketed since the arrival of COVID-19.
Almost 75% of members have already applied for the emergency loan, and we don't have any strict terms and conditions because we understand the epidemic situation that we have.
The SACCO has had to relax repayment regulations in a bid to cushion its members from the tough times.
But we urge, if there's any person who can get something small, to just to remit, because we use our pay bill, so it's not a must to come to the office, but can that remit? But if it's hard, we are not also being hard on our members, because we both understand.
Besides saving monies with SACCOs, many Kenyans also belong to merry-go-rounds, popularly known as chamas. But those can only do so much.
Kwa chama hakuna mwenye atakupe loan. Sasa vile hii SACCO ilianzishwa, niliona ni afadhali niingie kwa SACCO, because SACCO naweza ku-apply loan at least 20,000, 30 and above.
It is this saving culture that is now proving to be the pot of solace for many a Kenyan struggling to make ends meet in the face of a global pandemic sweeping away not just lives but also livelihoods.
Still, some Kenyans or many Kenyans still do not have the privilege of decent income or savings and rely fully on the government for their support or to support them for their living. My colleague Kevin Mutai has been speaking to some of them, and here is what he has. Kevin.
Okusa, Kenya has always had social security programs, some offering assistance to vulnerable members of the society and others aiding Kenyans in planning for their retirement years. The government has just released some 8.5 billion shillings to cushion the elderly from the economic shockwaves of COVID-19. But social security net is not all that rosy.
We find 65-year-old Halima Hassan at her home in Kibokoni area of Mombasa County. Quite advanced in age, Halima is unable to work and now depends on the government's cash transfer program for a living. Among thousands registered under the Kenya National Safety Net program, Halima says that the money, however little, is quite helpful, more so in this time of an economic crisis.
Kula miezi miwili, tukichukua 1000. Ndio zitatusaidia hivi.
Only last week, the government released an additional 8.5 billion shillings to cushion the elderly and other vulnerable members of the society.
Dear customer, you have received Kenya shilling 8,000 in your KCB account from the government of Kenya.
Halima has just received a notification of transfer of an improved amount into her account. The next few weeks will be livable, she says.
Anisaidia mpaka nyumbani. Kama hivi sasa habari ya korera. Anisaidia alhamdulillah, nanunua sukari, nanunua chumvi, nasaidia na watoto wangu.
The Social Protection Fund is just one of the programs in Kenya's social security setup. Key among them is the National Social Security Fund, NSSF, through which citizens save up for their retirement years. Now, more than ever, that money would have come in handy for Nur Hussein, a retiree who has been chasing his pension to no success.
I came across my NSSF card. Nikasema uzee umeingia. Kuna bora niangalie kama kuna kitu ambacho kimebakia kwa NSSF. Nikaenda kule. Nikaenda katoa statement. Kwa mshangao mkubwa nikakuta miaka yangu ambayo nimefanya kazi, jali makampuni ambayo nimefanya kazi, statement inaonyesha zero.
These documents and correspondences with NSSF are his only hope for tracking his sweat. Nur has been making the statutory payment since 1977, but now he cannot access his money at a time he needs it most.
Ikiwa mtu yuko nyumbani, wamtarajia mtu ataishi vipi? Yule mtu ana kodi ya nyumba alipe, ana bili ya maji, ana bili ya taa, ana chakula, ana mahitaji mengine ambayo yanahitajika. Leo kwa mfano mtu ukishikwa na positive corona, unaambiwa uweke katika quarantine kila siku 2,000. Watu hana uwezo kulipa pesa kama hizo. Lakini kama iko kuna mfuko kama huo ambao unaweza kusaidia, ni haki zao. Si kwamba tunaomba. Hii ni haki yetu ambayo tulifanyia kazi kwa jasho letu. Ni vyema kwamba serikali izingatie jambo kama hili. Ni very critical wakati kama huu.
While the government puts up in place measures to contain the economic effects of the pandemic, the contrasting fortunes of Halima and Nur reflect the everyday life of ordinary citizens reaching for life in these extraordinary times. Today, you are lucky. Tomorrow, you're not. With each passing day. Meanwhile, the crisis leaves a lasting imprint.
Well, it's not just the vulnerable members of the society who could do with a bailout in these extraordinary times. Turns out that even businesses needs it, as Lillian Carey has been exploring that.
Kevin, the big question is, can our economy afford a proper stimulus package to bail out MSMEs and those who have lost their jobs? The answer is likely not. But many businesses are in a dire situation and could do with a shot in the arm at the moment.
Good morning, good morning.
In the year 2000, Roseanne Muthoni planted a 30,000 shilling seed by investing in a private primary school. In the last 20 years, the seed has sprouted to a 200 million shilling investment with over 1,800 students in 3 different schools and employing over 100 people. But last month, an unwelcome global guest turned the tide.
COVID-19 brought the business to a standstill. We had actually gone on Friday, closed Friday the way we normally do for a weekend. And on Sunday, the government announced that we could not reopen. We had stores full of fresh food supplies, which we had to throw out.
Mweki Good Hope Academy would then shift its business model by dipping its toes in the murky e-learning frontier. Now, the revenue is gone, and with it, livelihoods that were nourished here. Muthoni wishes the government would come to the aid of struggling businesses.
I wish the government would be able to take away the VAT from the e-learning resources. The government would also take away the VAT from food items because a lot of our employees are not earning any income.
Economists argue that what Kenya needs to keep businesses afloat is a proper bailout package, like is the case in other countries.
So we need a stimulus package of about 300 billion shillings to be able to cushion this economy.
Gishinga says the government's tax relief will take longer to trickle down. Injecting liquidity into the economy is a much viable option, he posits. But with a small economy as Kenya's, this might be a challenge.
There are multiple techniques of injecting liquidity into an economy. For example, the CBK could reduce about the cash reserve ratio by about 100 basis points, and that could inject maybe 35 billion shillings into the economy, and that's what they did last time. But 35 billion is a fraction of what is needed. What we need is about 300 billion shillings.
The amount required is close to 10 times what the Central Bank of Kenya can inject by lowering interest rates, Gishinga argues. Should the situation persist, he concludes, the government should adopt the quantitative easing program model, which simply is minting new money and releasing it into circulation.
Whether the government can afford this stimulus package is another issue altogether. Reason being, we never planned and budgeted for it. Dan Mwangi, what lessons can we draw from this?
Well, Lilian, they say failing to plan is actually planning to fail. And while no one would have foreseen a global crisis of this magnitude, some nations have always set aside emergency budgets in anticipation of such times. Kenya, unfortunately, is not among them. And now we are reappropriating funds and appealing to the good graces of mankind to survive these times.
The pictures of disasters that have visited the country over the years, repeatedly and unfortunately in some cases predictably. In some instances, solutions have not been put in place and fixing it when it's broken, the modus operandi.
We always have in our budget an emergency fund of 5 billion shillings, meaning what we have always anticipated, things like drought, things like floods, earthquakes, this fund is always available. We have never, as a government, estimated this level of spread and size of emergency.
The emergency the Cabinet Secretary speaks of here is the COVID-19 pandemic, which has presented an unprecedented pack of problems, from healthcare to fading livelihoods and on to limited or no access to basics. This has led to the numerous calls for support for the vulnerable, even by the government, calls which will go on.
And we hope that you don't mind if we become those people who are always coming around for seconds.
The state has sought to allow for pooling of resources through the Kenya COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund, which has raised just under 1.3 billion shillings in cash and kind. But will the implementation start soon?
But at the same time, government is unable to respond quickly, largely because they need for the new fund that has been created for COVID-19 to be approved by Parliament before they can start to fit in money and also to approve how to spend that cash.
The pandemic is increasingly exposing the shortcomings of the country and its management and bringing to light gaps in decision-making. For instance, the debt situation, which has been a point of concern for a significant part of the Jubilee administration's reign, leaves Kenya in a sticky situation if more resources are to be channeled into an emergency fund. This is linked to Kenya's spending being far greater than its income, meaning that there is less money available to attend to the emergency.
Government obligations to pay debts may override, may suddenly overwhelm how much resources are available, and that means that the flexibility of the budget is reduced and you're not able to shift budgets from one side in order to use them for the emergency.
Creating an emergency fund for Kenya is solving one problem by creating a debt problem. And once you create a debt problem, the only way you can repay debt is either borrowing more or taxing the population or taxing the economy, which will lead you to reduced income and reduced disposable income.
The public wage bill has been a steep climb, whose flattening has proved to be an even steeper one.
And one of those weaknesses that we have is the huge cost that we have of running government, both levels of government, because majority of our budget goes to paying recurrent expenditure.
With strained resources and less than ideal systems, a great deal of adjusting will have to be done, and it will be uncomfortable.
It might mean even reviewing the reallocation of funds. It might mean delaying or postponing some development projects.
Is the country running on empty? Yes, we are running on empty, and we've been running on empty for quite a while.
And in not too long a while, we'll be having more stories coming to you on this team coverage Wednesday. But I hand you back to Mark Masai to take a break.
Mwangi, yes, we are running on empty because of failure to plan, but in many aspects, and who would have been able to plan for this effectively? However, as much as we're running empty in finances, there are many Kenyans with full hearts of generosity, and we'll see that after the break with Anita and Konge. Stay with us.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jek. Jek kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jek bleach. Just Jek it.
Maritime tips brought to you by Kenya Maritime Authority. Precautions for vessel and boat owners, operators, coxswains and passengers. Personal hygiene. Practice frequent hand hygiene, coughing and sneezing etiquette. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces on board the boats and vessels such as steering wheel, safety or guardrails and seats. Crew members, coxswains and passengers to regularly disinfect life jackets. Practice frequent hand washing with soap. Wear a mask on board a boat or vessel. Boat owners and operators to comply with government directives on movement restrictions within counties. Kenya Maritime Authority for safe and efficient water transport.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Dettol's main objective is to help children protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs on your hands. Your hands collect germs that causes diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands regularly with Dettol soap that gives the best germ protection ever against many illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath, bath, bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Avoid the crowds and use your card. Pay with your Absa debit card at any point of sale. Or better yet, shop online. Stay safe.
Wajua wanasema food has memory, and those who nourish you are never forgotten. Unakumbuka the auntie who made sure you shibat? We jamaa wa nyama, ule anakuwekea nyama poa ya choma. The dere, happy to share your takeaway. Na huyo mama wa chai, ule ana warm your lunch before you ata uliza. Your mama mboga, ule anakuongezea hata nyanya. Ule waiter kusava haraka haraka. Na ule mandazi lady, ule anakuwekea ndao moja ya baadaye. Na your boda boda rider, ule jamaa kufikisha haraka haraka. Now this is the time to let them know they are not forgotten. This is the time to make sure every table in Kenya has food on it. The points on your phone can be food in their home. When you sit with a plate of food today, pledge to stand for someone who has put food before you. Dial *126# to transfer your bonga points now so they can buy food and necessities at any outlet with a Lipa na M-Pesa till.
Safaricom is for you.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jek. Jek kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jek bleach. Just Jek it.
John suffers from indigestion. His twin James suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jek. Jek kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels and dishcloths with Jek bleach. Just Jek it.
Our team coverage continues, and our theme is running on empty, as that is the experience of many in the country faced with this pandemic. But as we will learn, Kenyans have full hearts of generosity. Isn't that right, Anita?
That's right. Kenyans have been known to rise above their differences and disparities by looking out for their brothers and sisters in times of need. And even in these days of a global pandemic with huge economic consequences, the indomitable Kenyan spirit lives on. Simply translated as, I am because we are. Not only are we all connected, but the only way we can grow and progress is by the growth and progression of others. In a country where over 80% of the workforce is in informal employment, millions are barely scraping by in the face of a global crisis. But it is the good grace of fellow Kenyans that is keeping them going. We find Billian Ojiwa, founder of the Billian Foundation in Mathare slums, distributing shopping vouchers to families who could use a shot in the arm in these extraordinary times, while also supporting local businesses.
What inspired this is because there's so much need. People are not going to work. People used to wash clothes initially. They are not washing. So many families are here without food. And if we don't do anything, it will take us longer to curb this pandemic. So our idea was just to make sure we give food so that people can stay at home.
Behind me are community health workers who have been identified because they are in touch with those who are most vulnerable in the community. They begin first by listing who they think need help, and then Billian and his team call and verify those families, and once verified, they create vouchers with the family-specific names. The vouchers are then handed over to the community health workers, which has just happened behind me, and then they will now proceed to the families, hand over the vouchers, and the families can then proceed to a specific shop that has been identified that can give them the food that they need. The target today is 200 families, 4 local shops, each providing for 50 families. Where there are crowds, social distancing has to be observed. An average bag contains unga, cooking oil, banana flour, and juice for these families. For the next few days, these families will have plenty and peace.
Mimi nimeshukuru na nafikiria hii itanisaidia kwa hiyo masiku tumefungiwa kwa nyumba bila kwenda kazini.
But Billian isn't the first, neither is he the only one. Across the country, Kenyans of goodwill have been sharing the little they've got with their neighbors, sometimes total strangers who need it most. From material commodities like money, foodstuff and personal protective equipment, to other gracious deeds like rent waivers and free transport. The indomitable Kenyan spirit, Ubuntu, lives on. Well, as we have been saying, no one knows at this time how long this will last and the overall economic cost it will have. So that's what the picture looks like in Kenya. Let's cross the border to our closest East African neighbor. NTV Uganda's Raymond Mujuni is live from Kampala. Raymond, what is the economic outlook in Uganda like at this time?
Have declined from US dollars 711.9 million, which was registered in January, to 701.34 in February. In March, it has gone down to 593.79 million.
The Ugandan economy is taking its punches in stride. Declining imports, declining tax revenue collections, and a general decline in intra-trade due to the COVID-19 lockdowns. Much of the decline is being felt mostly by companies that can now not meet their payroll and are adopting mass layoffs and closure altogether. Tony Ottawa sits at the helm of enterprise development of Uganda's biggest commercial bank. The bank is a pioneer lender to most of Uganda's small and medium enterprises that power over 67% of the economy. He says it is no longer business as usual.
Key thing has been things are not going to be the same. It's not business as usual, as we move ahead post-COVID. Many businesses are going to have to transform. Many businesses are going to have to change the way they do things. So it's going to be a very massive learning curve.
There's been no formal government stimulus package for the economy, but in piecemeal addresses, the central bank has eased lending restrictions for banks and urged for loan rescheduling. Whether that affects most of the economy is still a matter of speculation. Activists like Arnold Kwesiga are now urging government to immediately release a functional stimulus package to protect both jobs and the economy.
Package maintains the businesses operating. If the businesses are operating, it means they can actually maintain their staff on their payroll. That is the simplest form of way of looking at it. Because if you're providing any form of incentive to a business, then they don't have reasons to shut down and lay off people, because then there is a way of government intervening in this pressure they're undergoing.
NTV understands the two economic papers that will be the bedrock of the economic stimulus package are still a matter of debate between the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank and the President. Raymond Mujini, NTV.
All right, Mark, that's how things look like from across the border in Uganda. We still don't have an economic stimulus package. We don't know when it will come, but we know that the President, the Minister of Finance and the Central Bank are discussing one, and it should be in either by next week or by early the week after next. So back to you in studio.
Raymond Mujuni in Kampala, thank you for that update on the outlook economically from Uganda, and that's been forming our theme this evening, running on empty. Well, something that is somewhat related and is an effort to try and make things a bit easier for Kenyans. The ball is now on the president's turf after Parliament passed the tax amendment bill, the bill which will be signed into law by the head of state will, among other things, give employees earning below 24,000 shillings 100% tax relief, and also effect a reduction of the value-added tax from 16 to 14%.
The passage of the 2020 tax amendment bill through the floor of the National Assembly materialized after going through the second and third reading during Wednesday's special sitting of the House.
Today, this House stands to ensure that we put in place measures that shall keep all Kenyans of all walks of life safe and keep on moving. And I'm proud of the National Assembly because we stood to be counted during these difficult times.
The bill, which is awaiting President's signature to be law, will see employees who earn less than 24,000 shillings get 100% tax relief. The reduction of value-added tax from 16% to 14% that took effect from 1st April will also be legalized.
This mask we are telling Kenyans to buy carries a duty of 25% plus 18% VAT.
Mwenye anashughulika na ile anapata usaidizi pale kwa zile VAT ni mwenye anafanya biashara. Lakini sisi kama common mwananchi unapata biashara ya 100 ukule kwa tubo. Unajua hiyo haikuaffect sana.
Ile kitu itasaidia hata kama tax imeondolewa ni serikali kufanya ile tunaita stimulus package ya kuona wafanyabiashara wale walikuwa wanalipa tax na ile pesa walikuwa wanapata itafanywaji waweze kurudi kwa biashara zao.
Also the people who are suffering are the people that are living through hand to mouth. To me, I believe that the parliament have done the good thing.
Kuna ule mwananchi hawezi kupata chakula na hawezi tegemea serikali impatie, lakini ile kidogo ako naye serikali ihakikisha kwamba imeondoa hiyo ushuru ndio bei ya kila kitu iende nini chini.
With legislators having passed the tax amendment bill 2020, now employees will start noticing that extra shilling on their pay slip as early as this week, some next week. This depends, however, when the head of state will sign that bill into law. Seth Olale, NTV, Parliament Road, Nairobi County.
Seth's report brings us to another break. Business News is up next. Stay with us.
discovered the world-famous Smallfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Smallfix is. Smallfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long. All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Smallfix.
When you're facing stubborn stains, you're always in a fierce fight. Clean Soft kicks out stains. Kimateki.
NTV Business News in association with KCB Internet Banking.
Time to talk business now, and over 98% of Kenyans are financially unprepared for the disruption caused by the surging cases of the COVID-19 disease, and with only 2% revealing that they have savings to take them through the next few months. A new study conducted by the United States International University and the Network of Impact Evaluation Researchers in Africa reveals that the average Kenyan's income has decreased by 55%, with those in self-employment hit the hardest. The study recommends that existing Biashara Fund be transitioned into a lifeline fund to cushion micro, small and medium-sized businesses. It also recommends that both the central and county government subsidize the cost of basic amenities such as water, health and electricity. Kenyans stranded in the United Kingdom now have a chance to fly back home after the national carrier confirmed a direct flight to the country on Saturday. An economy seat will cost 56,000 shillings, inclusive of COVID-19 tests in London, but those with infants will also have to pay an extra 5,600 shillings for the 8.5-hour trip. The national carrier says that all the passengers will be required to undergo mandatory quarantine for a period of 14 to 28 days at their own cost. The flight will leave Nairobi on Friday, with Britons who have been stranded in Kenya following the suspension of flights on the 25th of March. The move follows intense negotiations in the last week between the government and the British High Commission. The Public Service Commission has moved to assure Kenyans that a new Auditor General will be in office by mid-May this year, as a new selection panel is unveiled. The delay in the appointment of an Auditor General has seen a lot of listed companies delay publishing their books of accounts, resulting to a backlog. The smooth operation of the Public Accounts Committee have also been disrupted. This will be the third time that the PSC attempts to hire a replacement for Edward Oko, and already 64 applicants have expressed interest in the job.
The next Auditor General who meets all the parameters that are required to perform that task. Mine is to wish you the best in terms of your task. We will be looking at you day and night.
Perhaps reflective of the business environment now. That's it for the business news.
NTV Business News in association with KCB Internet Banking.
We can always talk about your account online whenever you like.
Register at your nearest branch for KCB Internet Banking today.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Have you shared your Bongo points with someone who needs them? Remember to help a friend or anyone in need to buy food using your Bongo points. Stay at home, but still stay together with your loved ones and friends using Bongo points. Share your story or video of how you've helped a fellow Kenyan to our FB page NTV Kenya Twitter page at NTV Kenya, Instagram at NTV Kenya, SMS 20686 or our WhatsApp number 0745 925 002.
The risk of illness causing germs is increasing. It is believed that the coronavirus can remain on surfaces in your home for up to 9 days. Touching infected surfaces is one of the ways in which germs spread. Regularly disinfect your floors, countertops, and kitchen surfaces with bleach, and use an effective toilet cleaner inside and outside your toilet bowl. This message is brought to you by Medifact, JIG, and HAPIC.
Welcome back. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko now wants out of the deal he unwillingly entered into with the national government, citing frustrations. Sonko signed the agreement in the presence of President Uhuru Kenyatta, paving the way for the national government to take over key functions at City Hall. NTV senior political reporter Kennedy Mureithi with details of this unfolding drama.
It was not a question of if, but when the cookie would crumble.
Exchange, please.
Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko is now lamenting about his new status and wants his roles back.
Wow.
The show put up at the State House, Nairobi, about a month ago, now turning into a bitter pill to swallow for the Nairobi County boss as he rethinks the relationship.
If you're in a marriage and perhaps one of the spouse is abusive to the other, then there is a clear provision that you can choose to walk out. You cannot be bound to remain in an arrangement that is not working for you.
This fumigation and sanitizing booths now being the latest bone of contention between Governor Sonko and the national government through the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. In the last 2 days, the booths set up by Governor Sonko through the Sonko Rescue Team have been vandalized and his patience has run out.
In Mombasa, Governor Joho installed public sanitization booths at Likoni. And they are very well branded with the full names of the governor and also his co-benefactor, Suleiman Shabal. So why is it that they have a problem with Governor Sonko? And it is happening all over the country.
In a series of social media posts, the governor hit out at Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his permanent secretary Karanja Kibisho for unleashing the provincial administration on him, including the regional commissioner, praying that they all burn in hell.
The governor is determined to take personal responsibility, terminate the deed of transfer, continue with the mandate that he was given by the Nairobians back in 2017 until 2022.
The booths were put up at specific points within the central business district and popular settlements like Kibra.
There are a few individuals, as I indicated from the outset, who have decided to take advantage of this particular framework to sneak in a few activities that are not anywhere within that particular deal. I don't believe these people even have the blessings of the president, believe you me.
For the last 5 months, Governor Mike Sonko has been operating from his private office in Upper Hill, Nairobi, as he tries to attend to those functions that have been left under his wing after the national government took some. But right now, he's accusing a few individuals in government of trying to frustrate his efforts as he tries to endear himself to the same people who gave him an opportunity to serve them in 2017 with an eye on 2022.
There are individuals who have a problem with the name Governor Sonko. To us, we find that extremely unfortunate, unacceptable, and it is the height of impunity, especially when we are facing this crisis.
This latest outburst adds to a series of fights that have developed since the signing of the deal at State House. Earlier in the month, Governor Sonko had protested the fresh registration of about 6,000 workers from 4 key functions that included health and finance. The protestation saw his first fight with the NMS Director General, Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi, where Sonko had asked the staff to boycott the exercise at Uhuru Park due to coronavirus fears, but the exercise went on. Sonko has also been on a coalition course with Nairobi County Assembly Speaker Beatrice Elachi, who has been supporting Major General Badi and who recently vetoed a memorandum by Sonko in his opposition to a budgetary allocation of 15 billion shillings to Nairobi Metropolitan Services.
If people who have been tasked by the president to support the implementation of this deed of transfer cannot adhere to what is captured in that particular document and cannot adhere to the rule of law, then there is no point of committing illegalities at this stage that eventually will bring problems to the governor.
Sonko has vowed to fight to the end to reclaim his authority in Nairobi. Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
That the national government has provided even education.
From that flashy office of the governor, I guess it is true that all that glitters is not gold and all is not well that seems well. To a really sad story now that hits quite close home. Renowned author, literary scholar and journalist Professor Ken Walibora has been laid to rest today at his homestead in Makutano, Cherangany, Trans Nzoia County, in a ceremony attended by few mourners. Walibora succumbed to injuries sustained after he was knocked down by a double M matatu along Landis Road in Nairobi.
The late Professor Ken Walibora's body was airlifted from Nairobi and arrived at around 2:30 p.m. at his homestead in Makutano, Trans Nzoia County. Professor Walibora, who was celebrated by many owing to his exemplary creative writing skills, which effortlessly flowed into his journalistic work, was only buried by 15 mourners in line with government guidelines curbing the spread of the coronavirus. Other members of the community followed the ceremony from a distance.
Alikuwa mtu mnyenyekevu, mkarimu na msikivu. Of course, tunajua alipenda uandishi.
Ni hasara kubwa sana kwa jumuiya ya wasomi na hasa Kiswahili. Alikuwa katika hadhi yake na nafikiri ni pengo ambalo haliwezi kuzibwa katu.
His wife Ann Chebet and his 2 kids Sheila Zawadi and Katila Samba were not in attendance since they are in the US. Those who attended the 47 minutes funeral service were majorly his extended family members, neighbors and scholars.
Sisi kama wanataaluma na wapenzi wa Kiswahili tunazungumza na tunapanga kufanya kitu cha kuweza kumkumbuka Ken Walibora.
Tunamshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kutupa Ken. Kila ambacho tunaweza kufanya ni kujitahidi kutekeleza yale ambayo Ken alipendekeza na aliyahubiri katika maandishi na yale yote ambayo aliyasema.
Walibora succumbed to injuries sustained after he was knocked down by a double M matatu along Landis Road in Nairobi. He was taken to Kenyatta National Hospital where he passed on. By the time of his death, he was a contributor for NMG's Swahili newspaper Taifa Leo. He has previously worked as a news anchor and editor for NTV and QTV as a head of Swahili at the Nation Media Group.
Ama kweli twaumia, Walibora kuondoka.
He has also authored a number of Swahili books including Ndoto ya Amerika, Kidagaa Kimemwozea and Siku Njema. Halima Gongo, NTV.
As someone who's worked with him personally, we do say sorry. Pole sana to the family, and Mungu ailaze moyo wake mahali pema peponi. Now to something else that people are probably talking about still this evening in Kabarnet town in Baringo County as we take a break. Earlier today, the town came to a standstill for what was an apocalyptic sight. A swarm of narrow bee flies, commonly known as Nairobi flies, invaded the town. It is also known as the Kenya fly or Nairobi eye. Now, business owners failed to open their businesses, understandably, after the insects crawled all over the ground and walls. Many matatu operators were also unable to work as the flies were in every available space. Residents have now called on the county government to move with speed and eradicate the flies.
Behaving normal under these circumstances is having a death wish.
Your world has changed.
Isolation, quarantine, and lockdowns are the new order of the day.
The new order brings work at home and homework online.
Many nations are grappling under stressed health systems,
and many people are struggling with their health and well-being during this pandemic.
We focus on health issues affecting Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and the rest of the East African region.
That's why we'd like you to join us on NTV every morning as we break down these issues
and update you on your world.
Your world. Your world.
Your world.
Your new normal.
And from the sports desk, the Football Kenya Federation has only one day to settle former national team coach Adel Amrush's dues for wrongful termination or face sanctions from FIFA. The world governing body's extended deadline of 23rd April culminates tomorrow. A diversion of development funds or possible ban from the 2022 World Cup qualifiers looms for Kenyan football.
Made a mistake. I don't want to go at who made the mistake.
We are not responsible. My office was not responsible.
Current Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa and immediate former FKF President Sam Nyamoya shifting blame. The bone of contention being the termination of the contract of former Harambee Stars coach Adel Amrush that has left a bill of 108 million Kenya shillings. Amrush was appointed Stars coach in 2013 by former FKF President Nyamoya. In August 2014, he was suspended by CAF for 1 year for unsporting-like behavior. But 6 months later, the CAF Appeals Board cleared him. While Amrush was suspended, Nyamoya hired Bobby Williamson as Harambee Stars head coach. Upon replacing Nyamoya as FKF boss in 2016, Nick Mwendwa fired Williamson and hired little-known Stanley Okumbi as head coach.
I was never in office when this happened.
After elections, when he won, the first thing I told him with the minister and the peers is that, please, what you do, there is a potential problem here, which is Amrush's problem.
Amrush took his case all the way to the Court of Arbitration for Sports and won 108 million shillings in compensation. Williamson, on his part, took his case to the Employment and Labour Relations Court in the country and was awarded 55 million shillings for wrongful termination. Therefore, the actions by Nyamoya and Mwendwa have resulted in the Federation having a debt of over 160 million shillings.
Former regime of Nyamoya fired a coach irregularly. 2 courts have said that. I have led from the front in this issue. I have gone to court for 4 years to defend Kenya.
Nick Mwendwa should be personally sued. He should pay Amrush from his pocket.
If FKF does not pay Amrush, then Harambee Stars will be banned from the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Warote Kiru, NTV.
The COVID-19 pandemic has no doubt wreaked havoc on local and international sport, with the events either postponed or cancelled as the global community attempts to flatten the curve. This has led to losses of earnings and huge psychological strain as stakeholders pick up the pieces. Sean Carter-Villas reports.
For the local sportsperson, the 6th of April served up a situation of bad to worse. With the sports sector already hemorrhaging from COVID-19, any hope of reprieve was thrown out of the window by the government's mandate on funding.
Starting this month, all our local artists will be earning a total of Kenya shillings 200 million per month that will be paid to musicians through the system and other platforms that we have developed.
Ironically, the president's order to the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage left out the sports industry, which is one of the hardest hit.
Mtu volleyball ndio life yake yote, na saizi vile kila kitu imesimama, ana mbele ana wala nyuma, na nataka na alipe hao, nataka na food, wengine wako na family. So mimi ningeomba government na Olympic Committee waingilie kati, wasaidie volleyball swala wana contract.
The Kenyan Premier League, already in a financial chokehold prior to its suspension in mid-March, is also in limbo as to the next step.
Playing in Kenyan Premier League 2015, where I was particularly playing for Gor Mahia FC, we did not have a sponsor. It was very, very difficult to run the team, and the players, you know, we could go 1 or 2 months without salary. So I'm trying to imagine right now where we cannot go to the fields, we cannot get the bonuses from the games.
This has led to Global Players Union FIFPro warning of a sharp rise in the number of footballers reporting symptoms of anxiety and depression.
It's something that is driving most of the players into depression, and we're just praying and hoping that we overcome these things so that people's lives go back to normal.
The same can be said for Kenyan teams that had already qualified for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. The 2021 deferment means that athletes will have to rethink their preparations.
Kwanza ilikuwa ile uchungu. Umeona ile unajua tu after like 5 months naenda Olympics. And then unasikia wamepostpone mpaka after 1 year and some months. Hiyo kitu inakuanga uchungu sana. Kwa sababu wewe sijua ya kesho.
Meanwhile, sports federations have submitted names of athletes whom they hope will benefit from the sports fund, although that will be a wait-and-see game. Sean Carter-Villas, NTV.
Well, let's all stay strong and stay safe as much as we can, and sane as well, I must say. That's it for NTV tonight. Thank you for watching our special coverage on the Running and on MT themed special coverage Wednesday, team coverage Wednesday. And I'd like to appreciate the team that made this possible. A lot of people do put in many hours to bring those stories to you, even in Uganda with Raymond Mujuni. Thank you to David Agondoa for the sign language interpretation. My name is Mark Masai. Good night.